Two of the Celtics' three major players over the past decade decided to undergo surgery during the summer with the hope of extending their playing careers. Both men hoped to be ready for the opening night, and they were. But injuries started to strike other members of the team. The Celtics season really proved to be a roller coaster ride up and down. If it were not for injuries, there'd be no telling how far this team might have gone. Unfortunately, though, as players get older, injuries appear more often and become slower to heal. Now, changes may be made by the start of next season, but when you look back, there were quite a few exciting moments created by many of these players.
1995 was a bit rough. Injuries and lack of depth killed the season. Mac and the Celtics didn't even get to make the playoffs, which sucks because he was only on a one-year deal. Free agency comes around and Mac has a few options. One, he could re-sign with the Celtics, who have one of the best players in the league in Michael Jordan. The front office also thought this was a great fit, so they offered Mac a 5-year, $30 million deal. Since they also have his bird rights, they were also trying to make a big splash. Mark Price would have been a great upgrade at the one, but he signed with the Hawks. We stole Pippen from the Mavericks, so a big three of Jordan, Pippen, and Collins sounds lethal, but Mac declined, and he signed a massive deal with the Pacers. At the trade deadline, the Pacers were 4th in the East thanks to Mac and the new additions, but management wanted to shake things up a bit by sending out starting point guard Michael Adams for sharpshooter Brent Barry and a future first-round pick. We already had BJ Armstrong coming off the bench, so our guard rotation is still fine. Coming into the playoffs, we were the 6th seed playing the Washington Bullets in the first round, but we lost 3-2. This was our first year with the Pacers, so I thought it was fine. We had a solid foundation and a lottery pick in that draft. But boy, did it go downhill. We drafted Anthony Walker and Derek Fisher in the first round, and then we signed John Starks in free agency. These new additions plus internal improvements, we should be getting a lot better. But so did the rest of the East. The Knicks replaced John Starks with Michael Jordan. And what sucks is that they already have Karl Malone. So we're gonna have to get past them for any chance at a chip, which sucks because Mac is already 32. We start the 96-97 season with a core of BJ Armstrong, John Starks, Brent Barry, and Matt Collins. Real solid core, until Starks got injured. Needless to say, we did not recover winning, considering we only won 33 games and missed the playoffs completely. On the bright side, we were able to give more minutes to our young guys. And of course, MJ won MVP and the championship that season. This was a very pivotal offseason though. Despite having a great core that just didn't click last season for some reason, we ended up with the 3rd pick. We love BJ Armstrong, but we really wanted Gary Payton on this squad, especially since there aren't many star guards in the late 90s. Unfortunately though, the Hornets would not budge. And looking at the rest of the market, there weren't any stars available for our 2 picks, so we ended up trading up for the 1st pick and drafted Tim Duncan. Unfortunately for Mac and the Pacers though, the rookie Tim Duncan just couldn't raise the ceiling as we missed the playoffs again. On the bright side, he did win Rookie of the Year, so that is a good sign. This is really strange though because everybody's stats were great and some players even had a bounce back year, and even Tim Duncan was averaging 20. Anyway, we re-signed Starks and traded up again in the draft to get Paul Pierce. We have a lot of young guys, I know, but there's another tricky part here. Mac's contract is up and he's 34, asking for almost $8.5 million a year. This is a bit risky for the Pacers if they re-sign him since, well, they haven't been that successful since he's gotten here. Plus he's on the decline and we really want to get Jason Kidd. We ended up offering Kidd a 3-year, $28 million offer sheet, but since he's a restricted free agent, the Kings ended up matching, so we just re-signed everybody. Although, we ended up trading Anthony Walker for future picks and ran it back. But again, we had another losing season. At this point, I don't know what else to do. The Pacers have Tim Duncan and a rookie Paul Pierce and everybody else on the roster. Mac was even being shopped around and discussed parting ways with the team, but he decided to stick it through. The Pacers ended up drafting Manu Ginobili and AK-47 in the 1999 offseason. Hopefully, this will add more depth. Even with the starting 5 of Derek Fisher, John Starks, Paul Pierce, Tim Duncan, and Matt Collins, The 1990 to 2000 season did not treat us well. Again, we didn't even make the playoffs. Starks had a huge regression, so we ended up shipping him off for Aaron McKee and a pick. Luckily, the Pacers managed to get the 1st, 5th, and 8th pick in the 2000 draft due to some savvy deals in the early years. However, this was a pretty weak draft and no player really fit what the Pacers were trying to do. We had all the pieces and it just wasn't clicking for some reason. We still wanted Jason Kidd, but even with all these picks and assets, we couldn't get him. So we ended up trading for Kenny Anderson instead and drafted Michael Redd and Mike Miller. The 2000 to 2001 season was finally our big break as we finally got a top seed in the East with Duncan averaging 28 points and 16 rebounds while winning DPOY. Max minutes were reduced, but he still started and averaged about 7 points, 7 rebounds, and a block at 37 years old. Manu and Pierce stepped up too, as they both averaged 25 points and 7 assists. We ended up with the 4th seed, but unfortunately Duncan tore his ACL in the last few weeks of the season. You would think this would end our playoff run before it even started, but we ended up beating the Bucks in the first round 3-2. The second round against the Raptors would be a completely different story though. We faced a lot of injuries, and honestly, that team was just cracked with Mike Bibby, Antonio Davis, and Keith Van Horn, who were torching us, by the way. We lost in 5, but honestly, that's okay. We're going to have Duncan back next season anyway. In the 2001 offseason, the Pacers had a ton of cap space, so to try and make a big splash, we ended up shipping out Kenny Anderson, who we traded for Andre Miller and a pick. But we ended up just re-signing everybody and ran it back. The 2001-2002 season was finally going great. Easily, we were one of the best teams in the league, even without Duncan, who was still recovering from his ACL. It's clear though that this might be Mac's last season. He's starting, but his averages dropped and he's barely playing 20 minutes a night. We ended up winning 54 games and were actually legitimate title contenders. With a starting 5 of Manu Ginobili, Aaron McKee, Paul Pierce, Tim Duncan, and Matt Collins heading into the playoffs, we're out for that ring. Another 3-2 win in the first round against the Hawks. We struggled against the Magic in game 1 for the second round, but we took care of business and won in 5. We moved Collins to the bench in this series as he was getting kind of gassed at the end of games and couldn't really keep up with the spacing anymore. Now facing the best team in the East, the Toronto Raptors, who knocked us out the year before. Mac was back in the lineup for size, but concerns about his age and conditioning were still there. We made every adjustment possible trying to contain their scores, but eventually we fell in 6 in the Eastern Conference Finals, watching them win it all. On top of that, Mac retired, but he came back for one last run. He ended up coming off the bench while Duncan moved to the full-time 5 position. We won 63 games, which is second in the East, right behind the Raptors at 64. We swept the first 2 rounds on our way to the Eastern Conference Finals. And of course, we faced off against the Raptors. But this time it was different. We blew them out in game 1 to set the tone, but they came back swinging for game 2. With the series tied at 1-1, we came back to score 138 points to take a 2-1 lead. And they never came back. We won in 5 to go to our first finals as a Pacer. We face off against the Denver Nuggets led by a prime Gilbert Arenas. With the series tied at 1-1, we head to a pivotal game 3, making some adjustments. And we won the series in 5 games, giving Tim Duncan his first finals MVP and getting Mac his 5th ring, cementing him in NBA lore forever. Mac ended his career with 5 championships, 3 finals MVPs, 12-time All-Star selections, 3 All-NBA appearances, and 3 All-Defensive teams, all in 19 seasons. Only a few can hold a candle to this career.